Right, just picture a husband, an aging man, perhaps in his 50s or 60s, interacting, having a communication with his wife. And the guy says, "Sorry, darling, I can't meet today. What about tomorrow? Today I've got some really important stuff. Can't go for a coffee today. We can't go shopping today. How about tomorrow instead?" So she's coming from a certain perspective in life. That's what he says, but what she hears is, blah, 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 I don't love you anymore. Now, I'm not being sexist. I'm just using this role as an example. There's another we could use here. There's a young lady. A young lady is interacting with a young guy who wants to have a meaningful conversation. He really wants to connect with her conversationally, and she says, "Let's talk about it another time." And what he hears is, "I have better things to do than listen to you." I want to offer you at this stage a very, very basic model for understanding the cost of miscommunication and misinterpretation in our relationships. All right. These are the 4 stages of misinterpretation, and they apply to all of us. Professionally, this happens, it's rife in the workplace, it's rife in the family home, it's rife between husbands and wives and couples, married couples, long-term relationships. It's true between friends. Sometimes people will be friends for 20 years, have one miscommunication because of a misinterpretation, and then not speak for the following 20 years, then come back together again. I know two brothers who've recently kind of reconvened and got back together and started speaking together after not having, have been completely disconnected for over 10 years. I said, why? Why did you stop speaking? "Oh, well, he said this, and I thought he meant that." Some people will allow misinterpretation, all right, to absolutely devastate their relationships, to tear apart their families, to completely undermine themselves, send their businesses to the brink of collapse. Misinterpretation. My goodness. Misinterpretation is just when I simply think that what I think you're saying is what you're saying, without actually being interested in understanding what you are actually saying or what you're intending to say. So let's look at this. I want to acknowledge there are 4 steps of every communication. So we're going a bit more practical here. When I am communicating with you, I'm communicating with you. But before I step in front of the camera to present this idea, there's something I intend to convey. Right? I intend to show you the point in every communication where communications can go south, where communications can begin to break down. Right? Because if you can understand this, then you're going to become more aware of it. And as you become more aware of this, you're going to become more consciously alert and perhaps focused on not allowing yourself to undermine yourself and your relationships conversationally in this way. So, the first part of every communication is what the speaker intends to say. Right? Remember, we have senders of communications and receivers of communications. So for illustration purposes, I'm sender, you're receiver. So before I say anything, there's something that I intend to say. So this is stage number 1. Then there's what I actually say, which is the second phase. Now, if you want to know where communications begin to fall south, this is it. This is it. The second I open my mouth is the second that I begin to undermine the communication. Now, what I can do through learning communication skills, understanding people, becoming more socially aware, is I can do my best to communicate what I intend to say, but because of my imperfections as a man, as a communications teacher, there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to not say what I fully intended to say, which means that there's then what you hear. If I've communicated something that was even 1 degree short of what I intended to say, then you have missed my intention. All you'll have picked up on is what I actually said. And then things get worse. Then there's what you assume that I meant. All right. So if we kind of just go back a slide here, all right, let's talk about it another time. Right? We could just Imagine when you are walking through your local town, you bump into someone that you know, and you're on the way to a busy meeting. And you really are in a rush. This is occupying your mind. You really just don't need any distraction right now. To be distracted is going to be detrimental. It's not going to be helpful for you. Then someone, a really lovely person, comes along and stops you in the street and, oh, hi, it's lovely to see you. And we want to go through this whole thing of small talk. You don't have time for small talk because you're about to go and deliver a really important communication or deliver a presentation, or you're about to have an important meeting, or perhaps you're rushing to pick up your kids, which is a number one priority, or something like that. So you have an agenda, you have a priority. And this person's just simply not your priority. So your intention is to get to where you need to be and deliver what you need to deliver to the best of your ability. And then someone gets in your way and becomes a distraction. Now, you might very well love this person. You might have the utmost respect for this person. But seriously, you need this conversation to happen at another time. This person then, they have nothing else going on that day. They've just taken like a long weekend out, or they're perhaps in the middle of a holiday and they're and they've got all the time in the world for walking around and looking at the birds in the sky and just engaging in small talk because they're having a week out. All right, and perhaps a little bit too much time to dwell on things and perhaps imagine some worst case scenarios happening. So you just say, let's talk about this another time. I'm in a bit of a rush right now. And this person takes what you say as rejection. And what they hear you say is, I have better things to do than listen to you right now. Misinterpretation is what will sometimes separate and disconnect a mother from a son, a father from a daughter, a brother from a sister, a husband from a wife, and everything else that you could possibly imagine. All right. So, for this stage of the course, all I want you to become is aware of this miscommunication model. All right. What you say and how you say what you say, regardless of how true your words are to what your intentions are, is kind of irrelevant in the eyes of other people. So what I'm kind of giving you here is a bit of a get out of jail free card, because sometimes people will misinterpret you. Sometimes you will say something that is absolutely fine. People will put two and two together and come up with 163, and there's nothing that you can do about it. All right, so I would encourage you not to sweat this kind of stuff. What I've found is becoming more relationally effective in life, becoming more influential, is actually about learning to connect with people who are open to understanding you, not people who are quick to judge. If a person is quick to judge, quick to arrive at the worst case conclusion that they possibly could arrive at in response to something that you've said, which will just be an imperfect communication, you've got to then make the decision as to whether this is a relationship that you even want to entertain in your life. That's kind of a relationship principle, all right? And it's also a communication principle at the same time, all right? All that you can do is work hard to ensure that your words are conveying your intentions as accurately as possible, but that's all that you can do. What you cannot influence and what you cannot control is how open someone is and how receptive someone is to hearing you and understanding you. If someone is hell-bent on misjudging you and assuming the worst, there's nothing that you can do about that. Hence the reason I'm offering you this get out of jail free card here.